Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today at the Troop E headquarters. My name is Trooper Linnea Crane, Public Information Officer for the New York State Police. We are here to provide an update regarding the remains discovered in December of 2021 in the town of Dansville, Steuben County. This case has been the subject of a long and dedicated investigation, and today we are able to share with you the identity of those remains and the progress made towards justice. To begin, I would like to introduce the Troop E Commander, Major Kevin Suker, the Troop E Bureau of Criminal Investigation, Captain Kelly Swift, Special Investigation Unit, Lieutenant Joshua Greenman, Senior Investigator Brian Kazemko, and now speaking, Steuben County District Attorney Brooks Baker.
Well, folks, thanks very much for being here. We're a lot farther down the road in this case than we were back when these remains were discovered, but we have a little ways to go, and we're hoping that this can move us along in that process. So, so this is where our involvement in the case initially begins. On December 13th, 2021, the skeletal remains were found here in the town of Dansville along State Route 36, just south of State Route 70. It is close to the Swain Ski Resort, if that's sort of a landmark for some people. And eventually, we were able to identify those remains through forensic analysis and actually use of a forensic anthropologist. We were dealing with skeletal remains in this case. The victim, or the remains, are those of Doe So. His date of birth is 12/21/1987. He is a Burmese refugee legally in the United States who immigrated here and settled in Rochester in 2008. In life, he was 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighed about 120 pounds. These are additional photographs of him, and we're hoping folks will maybe remember him from the Rochester area or from times he spent in the area around Swain. Now, a little bit about him. He was reported missing by a friend and confidant, David Leeper, on June 1st, 2011. That report was made to the Rochester Police Department. At the time, he was living in an apartment at 241 Alexander Street in the city of Rochester. A photograph of that is up there, so folks remember him from being in that area. And he had a vehicle, a 2000 Chevy Lumina. That's a photograph of that there, so folks may be familiar with seeing him in that vehicle. He was also been known to use and ride around in a couple of other vehicles. One was a 1999 Ford F-250 Super Cab, red, as well as a 2005 Chevrolet Impala. He may have been seen in those vehicles while alive, also traveling with other folks in those same vehicles. He was employed. He worked at the Wegmans Next Door Bar and Grill at 3220 Monroe Ave here in the city of Rochester. Sorry. He was last seen there on the evening of May 29, 2011, when he finished his normal shift of work. He was a chef there at the restaurant. This is a photograph of the location on State Route 36 where his remains were found. There's friends and family have set up a memorial to him. He was an important part of both the LGBTQ plus community in Rochester and also the Burmese immigrant community. People are missing him, looking for him, and they want justice for him now that he has been found. Through our investigation, we've also determined that he frequented certain establishments in the Rochester area that folks may have seen him in the company of other people. One being Alex 140, which I believe was a social club that's no longer in existence, and the other being Tilt, a nightclub in Rochester. He was also had a connection down in this part of the world at the Jones Pond Men's Only Campground located in Angelica, which is not far from where his remains were ultimately found. Let me back up a little bit. His remains were found in a culvert along Route 36 by DOT workers, and that's where we see that that memorial now set up. So if folks are driving along that area and want to become familiar with it, that's a good landmark for anybody who's been in the area. A number of personal and clothing items were also found with him when he was when his skeletal remains were found. We are currently utilizing DNA technology, some of which did not exist in 2021 even, to further analyze those items for DNA, and we are hopeful they will produce additional leads beyond what we already have. At the time of his disappearance, he had just recently purchased a new cell phone at the Grease Ridge Mall. We see here that happened on the 29th of May. And we see a photograph of him at the ATM picking up money to pay for that phone. The phone he bought was a LG Optimus S. There's several photographs of that there in a couple of colors. That was never located. We are still looking for that particular item. It could be in the Rochester area, it could be down in the Swain area, or it could be anywhere in between or around the location where the body was located. The case is currently being investigated by the Special Investigation Unit of the New York State Police, the Major Crimes Unit of the New York State Police, the Forensic Investigation Unit, investigators from my office with assistance from the Broward County Sheriff's Department and the Rochester Police Department. A tremendous amount of law enforcement resources are going into this case, hundreds and hundreds of man hours, and we're talking about hundreds of years of law enforcement experience, as well as utilizing the latest technology on all fronts to locate additional evidence and find out who is responsible for the death of Doe So. In interviewing folks in his community, we found out a lot more about him. He was a valued member of his community. He was a hardworking, happy young man, loved by everyone he met. Bright light in the world were some of the comments made about him. The folks who know him, his communities miss him, and he deserves justice, and that's why we are here today. As we go through the process here, I'm confident that we are closing in on some of those answers in justice, but we still need help. There's information out there. There are people who may have seen him. I know it's been a long time. 2011 was a long time ago. That's the nature of a cold case. But now the people have seen Doe So. They've seen the vehicles he might have been in. They know the areas. We know now where he was found. We know where he lived. We know where he worked. We are looking for anybody who might have seen him in the company of other people or seen anything odd or unusual. There is no bad information. Any information would be welcome. Up on the screen we have the New York State tip line. Please call 607-225-5400. Tips can be anonymous. We're not going to take down names. Any information is good information, and nothing will be disregarded. You never know what little piece of information might be that one last piece we need to close the circle in this case. Up here we have, just so people can kind of orient themselves, a map of what we are talking about here. The box in red kind of shows the general area. We have Rochester where he worked, where he primarily lived, where his residence was, where he was last seen alive, down into the Swain area and the Jones Pond Campground, where we know he frequented and had been in the past, and then we have the Dansville location where his body was found, which is obviously closer to Jones Pond than anything else, but that's the area we are looking for. So if folks happen to find a cell phone in 2011 back then, it'd be just nice to know where it was found or any other information about this case. The whole purpose of the investigation here is to find justice for Doe So. He was a valued member of his community. He was a valued member of a couple of different communities. Someone put him in a culvert in 2011 and we need to find out who. The New York State Police have worked tirelessly to get us to where we are right now. I think we are on the precipice of again, closing the circle and getting those answers for his friends, for his family, for his community, and finding justice for him. But any help we can get from the community would certainly be welcome and appreciated. So with that, if there are questions, we can try to do our best to answer them. I believe Lieutenant Swift has some additional information. Captain Swift, I'm sorry, has some additional information.
Good afternoon. I am Captain Kelly Swift of the Troop E Bureau of Criminal Investigation. As you've heard today, this case represents years of dedicated work by investigators, forensic experts, and our partners in law enforcement and prosecution. Identifying Mr. So is a critical step, but it's only part of our mission. Our commitment remains to find out exactly what happened to him and to hold those responsible accountable. I want to thank the Steuben County District Attorney's Office, as well as the men and women of the New York State Police, including our Special Investigations Unit, our Major Crimes Unit, and our Forensic Identification Unit, all who remain dedicated to pursuing justice in this case. Most importantly, we are asking the public for their help. Even the smallest piece of information could be significant. If you remember seeing Doso, his vehicle, or anything connected to this case, please reach out. We have established a dedicated tip line at 607-225-5400, and tips can be made anonymously. Your cooperation could be the key to providing justice for Doso. I am confident moving forward with this case that it will be solved in the near future, and that we will bring justice to Doso and closure for his loved ones. We'll now take some questions.
Can you maybe just discuss some of the challenges in identifying the remains over a 14-year period of time?
Well, the remains we found were skeletal remains. So obviously there are no identifying marks. There is no way to identify him from what we have there. So we had to utilize the state police, quite frankly, did the legwork here, found us a forensic anthropologist. They obtained dental records and other information that was able to finally put a name with this skeleton that was found by a bunch of DOT workers.
Any idea as to the cause of death?
At this point, no, although we do know that based upon the review of the skeleton, he wasn't hit by a car. This is not an accidental death situation. So we are treating this case as a homicide.
They believe he was placed there intentionally.
That's what we believe at this stage, yes.
Are you able to expand if there's one suspect, a number of suspects in terms of that direction?
I don't think that's something we can talk about at this point. I do think there are, we have significant leads in this case, and as the captain indicated, we are hopeful that in the relatively near future we'll be able to close the case, but we're not prepared to talk about suspects at this stage.
Do you believe that where his remains were found in that culvert is also where he died? Or he moved?
At this stage, that's not something I think we're prepared to talk about, but it does, we do know he was placed in that culvert, and he was essentially, the body was hidden there. That much we do know.
So that would have been like a culvert pipe underneath the road? Or?
Yes, that's what it was. It was a drainage pipe that passes underneath Route 36. They were doing routine maintenance, which they do, unfortunately, only every few years, and they happened to notice something that didn't belong.
You may have touched on this, but was he at that camp that you had mentioned down there? Was that what brought him down to that area?
Well, we don't know who brought him down to the area or how he got to Dansville. We do know he had been to the camp and that camp area in the past. He had frequented there and had associations there, and so that's why we were pointing that out. Our hope is that maybe somebody saw him there, saw him in the company of people around that time. Again, just any little bit of information could be helpful.
Was his car found down in the Dansville area, or did he get down into the areas by some other means?
We don't know how he got to Dansville. His car was located in the parking lot for his apartment complex.
About when were you able to identify that it was Doso?
It took us probably a year and a half or 2 years to identify him, isn't that correct? Yeah, so about 2023, I guess, we identified him. And then we were able to link him to a missing persons case in Rochester and bring in that initial investigation that had gone very cold because they had no idea what happened to them.
Why hold this press conference today? Why now? If you've had this investigation?
Well, we have, the state police have been putting in a tremendous number of hours into this case. They have developed significant investigative leads, and as Captain Swift indicated, we believe we are approaching closing the circle. But again, we don't know what piece of evidence it's going to be that takes us over the finish line to be able to establish the suspect, to be able to make an arrest, to be able to tell what happened to Doso and bring this case or someone to justice for Doso's death. So now the time is right for having this conversation because we have enough information to be able to use any tip that comes in, and it will have a place in our investigation. We know an awful lot of things. We have some more pieces to put into the puzzle, and we're hoping that the community can help us with that.
You mentioned about the cell phone being a significant component of it not being located yet. Is there any indication or hope that that is kind of the missing factor there to affecting that, or that's essentially foregone?
I don't know what role it will play. I mean, it really depends on if it's ever found or where. It's not something that we absolutely have to have, but it's something that might give us some more information about his travels or his location or any of those things. So if somebody did happen to just find along the side of the road or in the mall parking lot or somewhere else a cell phone, it could give us some information. I doubt at this stage we'll get any information from the phone itself, but its location could be helpful to us.
And have you been able to, I know you mentioned talking with friends and family, how are they holding up with that?
Well, most of his friends, obviously, you saw some of the quotes. He is somebody they miss tremendously, and he just disappeared off the face of the earth from their point of view more than a decade ago, almost a decade and a half ago now. So it's one of those things that haunts them, as it would anybody if you lose somebody who is important to you. Most of his family is overseas, and we have spoken to them by phone. It's even harder for them because they can't be here, they can't talk to people. So getting them answers and having that conversation by long-distance phone call is even more important, I think, in this case than some other ones where they can't be close by and can't be involved and can't talk to the folks who knew him and saw him last.
That memorial that showed a picture of, how long was that done?
I'm not really sure. It is something that may have come and gone over time. I think as the investigation has pressed forward and people have, one, he's been identified as part of that process, that pushed the memorial to go up more recently and again be renewed, I guess. So.
You said you had clothes that you were looking to do a DNA analysis on.
Mhm.
What are the next steps in this process now?
Well, the investigative steps, I don't think we're going to talk about too awful much. That's something that the state police are working on from all different angles. We're working with authorities in Florida. We're working with Florida authorities in other places and working, those steps are things that I don't think I want to talk about a whole lot because I don't want to endanger what's going on. As far as the DNA testing, again, there are some new processes that have, it's a rapidly evolving science, and there is some new science out there that we're attempting to utilize right now. That may take some time, but we are exposing some of the other personal effects that were found to a new technology and are hopeful that will be positive.
There was also another missing person, his name was Nico or Nico Easy.
Yep.
Around the same time. Do you believe there's any connection there with that?
No, that's a complete, that's a case from a different part of Steuben County and a completely different collection of folks. So I don't believe there's any reason to believe this has any connection to the Nico Lisi case. This is a much more Rochester-centric, Swain area-centric case with very, very different players involved in the Nico Lisi case.
Can you speak to why you're confident that you are going to find this person? Is it related to the technology you're using, or is it related to people that you're now able to talk to?
Well, one of the reasons I'm confident is because of the people standing right here. I've had the privilege of working with the state police for the last 32 years. They bring incredible professionalism and dedication to law enforcement. And when they tell me they're going to solve a case, they always do. So that's one of the big reasons. But their efforts have given us a tremendous amount of information about what was going on, when it was going on, who was involved in Doso's life, and we have developed a tremendous amount of information we did not have in 2021, and that was not available in 2011 when the original complaint came in. So I am confident with the way things are moving and how rapidly they are moving forward, and that we will come to a place where justice can be found for Dosu in the not too distant future.
Did you say there was a Florida connection?
There is some possibility he had some connections to the Fort Lauderdale area, hence the Broward County folks assisting us with that. The state police have been there to conduct interviews and talk to people. And again, no stone is being left unturned in this case.
Maybe if we could hear something from Bruce just regarding the kind of the scope of the investigation and maybe some of the challenges in a case that happened in 2011.
Well, these cases are always challenging. There's a lot that goes into it, a lot of evidence, a lot of leads to track down, just everything that has to be put together.
Would you be able to say how many people have worked on this case that have handled this case?
Over the last 4 years, I couldn't even, there's just several. I mean, between all of the units, and we're working cohesive to bring justice for Doso.
We're going to wrap it up. Thank you very much for being here today. I will have a PowerPoint for you guys. I'll just email it to you. You guys are
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 on demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.